Welcome, everybody. I'm Beth, and I'm here with Deanna. We're two members of our payroll support team, and we're going to talk about accruals today. So as you can see on my screen, we're in the accrual profile section of KPay. I'm going to talk about tenure-based and hours worked accruals in this section. This is where we, the Bergen KDV team, support team, set up the accruals for you, for the clients. So we have a tenured-based accrual, and that basically grants a flat number of hours per pay period or per month or per year based on how long an employee has worked here or worked for your company, sorry. Then we have an hours worked. And hours worked basically is what it says, is based on how many hours an employee works and that their percentage that of accruals that they'll get per pay period. Okay, so I'm going to click into this pencil. And I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to go over how it's set up, kind of give you an idea of what we do here to get it set up for you guys. So as noted here, we have the time off. So whenever PTO is used, this is that drives the accrual for the employee. We have an anchor date, and this is set to calendar day of 1/1. And what that means is that defines the accrual year. So this accrual year is going to go from 1/1 to 12/31 each year. If you prefer to have it as date started, we change this to date started, and then it will accrue on the employee's date started and go to the next year on their date started. This date to use as a start date is the date that drives the schedule. So 2 years, 3 years, 7 years, depending on their start date. I'm going to scroll down again, and that determines the employee's rate. Okay. Then we have a waiting period area. So if you had a waiting period with your accrual policy, this is where we would set this up. Then we have a carryover settings. So carryover settings, here is where we set up, for instance, this company has a maximum of 80 hours that they carry over, and then they zero out the rest. Then we have an extra settings section. And here, I'm going to actually click in here. So this is where you can say, I want a maximum accrued amount per year, and we would enter that in here. Or you can say, I want a maximum running balance, and we would enter that in here. We can do this as a schedule. If we click on here, we can add more rows and say after a certain amount of years, it would change to 240. And then we would say hours here. So we have different ways and we can do that depending on your accrual policy that you have with your company. And then again, we have the schedule. So this is how we set up how many years they've been there and what their rate is going to be per pay period. So I'm going to click back here. And then we're going to go into the hours worked settings. This is set up the same way as the tenured settings, except there's an hours work settings in here. So what we need to do for that is we need to create a pay prep profile that tells the system what earnings to use to calculate the hours worked. Some people want PTO, sick pay. Some people don't want to make sure you're not including overtime, things like that. So this pay prep file is what is defining that. So we'll name it a specific name so that you don't accidentally assign that to the employees when you're hiring them, because it is only used for accrual purposes. So there again, we have your schedule, and it shows how much, what their rate is depending on how many hours they've worked. And the hours can be, we can set it up so that it reads hours on a timesheet, or we can set it up to read hours on a pay statement if you don't have our TLM module. Okay, now I'm going to hand it over to Deanna, and she's going to talk about setting up the policy on a new employee.
Okay, so then our sample employee is Rachel. And if you look at her profile over here, there's the accrual section. And if we click on the little magnifying glass and we go in there, and it will bring up either tenured based or hours based. And those are the two profiles that are set up for this company. And she is selected at tenure base. And you can change that at any time to make sure that, you know, you've got them at the right spot. If you go into your jump menu and click on accruals, it's always going to bring you to your accrual section of your profile. This one just happens to be at the top of the page, so it's really simple and easy. We have the ellipsis up here. And with a new hire or a rehire, you always want to make sure that their accrued to date is their hire date or rehire date, depending on what it would need to be. And you would just go in and change the as of date. It would be blank for a new hire or a rehire. A rehire would actually be the last date accrued. A new hire will be blank. And you want to make sure that you add this date, whether it be their new hire date or their rehire date, and add a comment. And I would either put new hire or rehire and save that information so that the system knows where to accrue back to. You can also, if you wanted to execute their accruals to the next pay period to make sure that it's working, click back in the ellipsis, edit accrual balances, and if you click it here and do to the next accrued to date or date, it would actually take you to, let's see what that one was, 410. Go to here and execute. It's going to take you to the next pay period. And so we see that she accrued again, but then she's already covered or already at her max there. So she's not going to accrue for her sick time, but it will accrue both balances. And that would be just to make sure that it's working. You can always go in and delete that after you accrue it, just to make sure that we do have it working and she is set up properly. Beth, do you want to show how to manage employees?
Sure. Thanks, Deanna. Okay, so I am going to go over the accrual widget. I'm just going to move this aside here so I have more room and I can see where we're going a little bit better. So we have the accrual widget, and we have this, like Deanna had mentioned, we have the accrued to date, we have current accrued, we have taken, current balance. This client doesn't have the available balance set up in their settings, but if they did, that would be here as well. Then we have scheduled. The nice thing about the scheduled and the taken, and see how it is, they're in blue. If you click on these numbers, like this is 0, so it's not going to show anything because she hasn't taken any, but she does have 2 days scheduled. So it's showing which days she has scheduled. So it's kind of nice to have that as just a kind of simple, easy, convenient way to find out, okay, what are the days that they have scheduled. Then you have the current accrued rate. Then I'm going to show you what's in this ellipsis underneath the actions. So in here we have view history, execute accrual rule, and rollback accrual. I'm going to click on view history. This is really nice because it shows you everything, all the history of the accrual for that employee. So we have, I'm actually going to delete this accrual and show you how you can accrue just for this accrual. Deanna showed you this execute accruals and it executed for both. I'm going to show you, whoops, the how to execute just for PTO. So again, you just click on execute accrual rule, and we know that their accrued to date will be 4/24. We want to accrue it to 4/24. We're going to click on execute accrual rule, change this to 4/24, and execute accruals. You see that it gave her the accruals here that she needs to, that she gets. So this is also nice too, so that if you need to adjust something, you noticed I had clicked on this garbage can to get rid of this. If you need to do multiple, you can't do them all at once. So once you click on this one, the garbage can will come up for the next accrual. It won't come up, you can't remove time entries, but you can remove accruals. So you could go back as far as you wanted to. One thing I wanted to point out too on this accrual history report is it shows the carryover. So it showed the carryover of on 1/1, and what happened was they had a 200 hour balance. And why these are showing negative, I can just point that out, is because this accrual policy had a maximum of 200 hours. So the system knows it will accrue it, but the system knows to take it away to keep it at that 200. So when it came time to do the carryover, it takes away the 200, then it gives back the 80 that is part of the policy that can get carried over. So that's how that works. Again, if you notice here as well, so you're going to notice that 714 was accrued. So why only 714 and not 769? Because the carryover happened between that pay period, on a date within that pay period of accrual. So only 714, excuse me, carried over. It did the maximum running balance rule, took it away. Then it did the carryover, gave it the 80, then it gave it the rest of the 769 of 0.55 hours. So that kind of just gives an explanation of how that works when it does the carryover within a pay period, if that carryover date happens to fall within the pay period. As you know, accruals always execute at the end of the pay period, or the beginning of the next pay period. Another thing I will show you, I'm not sure, I'm going to show you how to edit the balances. So let's say, Rachel, let's say your company had a contest, and if they could earn 8 hours of PTO in that contest. So what you could say, you could change this to adding it to 8 hours. So I will go ahead and do that. I do the math here, sorry. There you go. 134.07. And then you can say 8 hours contest, 8 hours contest, something like that. So you're going to click save. Then when you view the history, it will show that that's why she has that 8 hours added for the 8 hours of a contest that they had running that time. So now I'm going to bring it over to Deanna, and she's going to talk about the personal accrual schedules that you can set up for an employee.
We have the personal accrual schedules. You can do it for all of the buckets that you have set up in your profiles. And for this company, there's PTO and sick. I'm going to show you the PTO. If we click in the bucket or in the drop down and just click on personal, it's going to bring that up, but we have to click on the save button. And once we click on the save button, it's going to bring a pencil. If you click on the pencil, it'll bring you back to the rate table. Right now, it currently has 0. Let's say that Rachel negotiated in her annual review that she's going to start getting 9 hours of PTO per pay period. We could put a 9 in there, click save. We have to save back at the top again. And then we look at Rachel's current accrue rate, and she's now currently at 9. If she was going to increase again, say after 10 years, we could add a row, click in 10 years, 10, and we're going to change the data hours. So then after 10 years, she'll accrue 10 hours. And then we can save that again. And that will just, after her 10th year anniversary, she will start accruing 10 hours. You can do this for anyone that negotiates a higher rate than what your current accruals are set up for your company. And it just has to be included into each individual employee that would apply to. You can set it up for the first 5 years, say they accrue at 4.62, and after the 6th year, they go up to 5.63. Same thing, you would, and then make them follow your company's rate table for the rest of their duration of their employment. And we're going to go into some reporting. And to get to the reporting, we go from the hamburger menu to teams, into accruals. And the first report I'm going to show you is the balances report. And I'm just going to click on run the report. This report is really nice. It runs in live time. So everything that is on here is as of the day that you run it. It will show you, you can have it filtered to all employees. You can filter out your terminated employees, whether they're locked out of the system or not locked out of the system. You can have your employee, it has your employee ID, employee's name, their accrual profile, whether they're tenured based or hours based. I'm going to scroll over here. It has their buckets, whether it's PTO or sick time, their current accrual rates, updated to the last time that the accrual ran for that profile, the days earned year to date, hours earned year to date, days taken year to date, hours taken year to date, days scheduled, hours scheduled, days remaining would be their balance, and hours remaining would also be their balance. This report is really nice because it has every employee that is in your company based on the filters that you have running. You can select, we're going to filter this just to PTO. A couple different employees up at the top. And we can take the first couple of employees and it will make these ribbons turn blue. Once the ribbons are blue, you can use them. And we can also from here execute the accrual rate like we did in the profile. You can do it for 1 or 2 employees if for whatever reason their accruals didn't update, or if you want to do a mass one for your whole entire company just to make sure everybody is exactly where they need to be, you can run that from here. Rollbacks, we don't use a lot. If you do a rollback, it is going to take away all of your history and any manual edits that you made, so you don't have any data as to why something was added. It will take that all away for you. Move balances, you can move an entire balance from a PTO, or we have PTO up here, so we could move his entire PTO balance to their sick balance by clicking on here and then adding a comment, whatever kind, no longer can use PTO, sick only, whatever reason that you have, and then click save, and it will move their entire PTO balance. Like Lance has, let's get over, see how many hours he has available. He has 123 hours earned year to date, and we would move all that 123 hours into the sick if you click to move balances. You would need to make sure that it is a policy that has a balance or a bucket. If you were to pick, say, military leave or funeral time, it would not move the balance it would take it away from PTO, but it wouldn't go anywhere else. And then we have the ellipsis over on the side that gives you a couple more options. On this one, you can change remaining. Say you wanted to add 8 hours to Lance and Phoebe for, there was a contest at work. They won. We're going to do a contest again. So we're going to contest at work. So one contest. So we're going to click save on here. And that's going to add 8 hours to Lance and Phoebe because they won the contest. We can also go into change remaining and we can subtract those hours from Lance and Phoebe. We're just going to say that they used contest hours. And then we save that and it will take those hours away from them. And they're back to where they were. Just keep clicking on you too so that we can see the rest of this. Change updated to. if you click in here, you can change their updated to the calendar date. You can change it to their seniority date. And you can do this for the whole company, or you can do it for each individual. If we don't really use zeroed out. Zeroed out has the same effect as rollback. It will clear all of your history. We get clients that call in and want to have a report that will show just what their accrual rates are for their employees. This light report is a report that you can run to get that information at your fingertips with just a click of a button. And we're going to click and we're going to just add columns. And you can add the current accrual rate and you can add the time off into there. And we'll apply this here. And there it gives you your current accrual rate per employee and which bucket it belongs to, whether it's PTO or sick time. And then you can always go back to, oops, wrong ellipsis. And then you can always go back to the standard report from here, and it will pull all that same information back in. Then we're going to look at the detail report. So if I go back to the hamburger menu, and I'm back in my accruals, and down here is details. And we're going to click on that. And it will pull up eventually. And this is going to pull up all of your employees. And it's like the view history report, and it pulls up everything for your employees. And we've got our date filter set to last year to date. I did that because I wanted to be able to pull in the carryover rule, but you can set it up to this year. You can set it up to look at it last year, however you need to look at it. And it's going to show you all of your employees and what it is that has happened in their history. So then if you wanted to filter to the carryover, say you wanted to see everybody that had the carryover rule applied and what it did to them, you could look here and you would see that David had 200 hours taken and 80 hours put back in, and you could make sure that it executed your carryover rule on all of your employees. You could also look in this one, you could look to see if you did a mass edit and you awarded, say 20 of your employees, you awarded hours. Let's see, where would I see? I don't have, oh, the comment. And for your comments, you put that you awarded hours. Well, I think we did contest. Do like so I can find it easier. Click on like, there we go. If I can spell, we'll see if it works. Okay, and this shows us everybody that we added hours to for winning the contest and then taking the hours away. It's just a really nice tool to have so that you can make sure that you're auditing, it's an easy audit tool basically for anything that you need to do with your accruals. Let's see. I think I got them. All right, and that is all I have for reporting. We do have some frequently asked questions that we're going to go through, and one of the ones that we get is how to get that run report to go away. So when we were in the balances report, there's this run report icon, and how do we make that go away? So if you go into Save View and click Run Immediately and Save, and let's see, I should have saved and ran, but if I run immediately, and I'll go back out and it'll go back in, and it should run immediately. And there we go. And then that takes that away and it will automatically run for you every time. You just need to go into the Save View off your little ellipsis and click Run Immediately. And you can save and run the report from here, or you can just save it and it will run immediately the next time you open it. Beth?
Okay. Another question, frequently asked question is, why isn't my employee accruing? So I'm going to go back to Rachel. And look at her accrual bucket. So one of the things we need to make sure and be aware of is, first of all, that they do have an accrual profile set up for them, that they do have an accrued to date in here, because really that is what drives the accrual. If there's no date in here, if this date is missing, the system doesn't know what to do. The system's going to do your accrual based on how far it needs to go back to accrue. So you need to have a date in here for it to accrue, and make sure that they have the corrective policy set up. And here again, so you notice that when Deanna set up this personal accrual schedule for Rachel, you want to make sure God, this doesn't look right. You want to make sure that maybe she isn't supposed to have a personal accrual schedule, or she did have one, but now it needs to change. It needs to go back to, what her schedule is now, what her schedule should be. So what you want to do is click on the pencil, and you want to remove this. And then you also need to click on the drop down and click here where you're going to remove that personal accrual schedule altogether, and click Save. And now she's back to that 7.69. Sometimes this gets a little tricky, because if you have this accrual schedule set up in your profile, you can accidentally click on that, just clicking, just accidentally click on it, not realizing that you did that. Now her, well, now it's back to this 9 because she had a personal schedule set up, but it could be that it could be 0. So basically it's going to be 0. So let's just go back and change that to 0 and click Save at the top. So if you're looking at someone's accrual policy and it says 0, scroll down and just make sure you don't have this personal PTO schedule set up. If you do, simply just click on this drop down, click on the blank space and click Save. And that goes away. Now she's back to her 7.69 hours. Let's see, there's another question. Oh, when will the carryover happen? That's a good question. The carryover will always happen on this anchor date. Whatever you have as set up as your anchor date, that's when the carryover will happen. And I already went through like the how it shows. I'm going to go back to this history. I already went through how it's going to take a little bit, do the carryover, and then give the rest. So those are some common questions that we have that I kind of wanted to run through again with you. Oh, another question. Deanna, do you want to go over what report will show me the accrual balances?
I sure would. So if we go back out of Rachel, the 2 reports that are going to show you your accrual balances is the balance report will show you their live balance as of the day that you run it. We were in this report, it shows you, I'm going to take Rachel off here, and this will show you for all employees. And then the detail report will also show you their balance. And that one you can go in a date range. So those are the 2. Your balance report is live, and your detail report, you can select a date range or you can select a year, and it will show you your balance as of the date that you're running it in the detail report.
Also on this report, Deanna, show them where they can find their balance, what their balance was before the carryover happened. That's a common question too.
In this report, they would be able to see that it would be, let's see, let's bring PTO back up here. Let's make it easier so we can see the people.
Yep.
Okay, so in this report, and I'm going to just go back to just carry over because it will show you the in and the out. So for Phoebe, she would have had 100.84 hours prior to the carryover. And then once the carryover rule was applied, she got put back down to the 80 hours that are allowed per company policy for her carryover rule. And you would be able to see that in this report.
Good. Also, let's go back to that other report. Well, actually, it's on this as well.
Yep,
so
it's on this one too.
Yeah, a lot of times people will run a report and we have this column that says locked. And a lot of times the reports are just defaulted to no. So if you're thinking, gosh, why aren't all my employees showing up on this report? Look at this locked column. And if it says no, the only people that are going to show on this report are the employees that are not locked. Well, there might be some employees that are locked that you have in there. So you simply just want to change this to all and refresh. And it will show every employee whether they're locked or not. Every employee is unlocked in this situation, so it didn't change the rows, but it typically will change the rows up here, but we just happen to have everybody not locked at this moment on this. So, well, is there another question?
You answered the last one that we had.
I did, didn't I?
Accruals.
Okay.
Yes, you did. And we are done with our frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
If there are any questions from anyone else.
From the viewers, Bethany?
Yeah, we do have a couple that came up here. And while we were starting these here, if anyone does have another question they want to submit, go ahead and put that in the chat function here and we'll make sure to get to that. The first one that we had here says, can you set up a separate maximum accrued?
For like if you had an employee, for one employee, I'm assuming you're asking, the question is a separate maximum accrued for certain employees, like certain employees have one maximum accrual, certain employees have another maximum accrual. So if that's the question, you would have to create another, we would have to create another accrual profile for that. But if the question is, can we do multiple maximum accruals, we simply can go in here and we can do this, create us like a schedule, and then after 2 years it's 100. So we can do a couple different things with that, but if it's just strictly, you know, only the one and you're not doing that schedule, then we would have to do a separate accrual policy for that separate maximum accrual.
Okay, thank you. She did reply and yes, so what you were on track with there.
Okay, good.
The next one that we got, this one's more of an instance here. I have a person that gets overtime and is paid time and a half. If he uses any leave time, does that take away from him earning overtime?
In most states, yes. It's really state specific, but in most states, PTO time or vacation time, sick time, any unworked hours are not part of the overtime calculation. It's only worked hours that are part of the overtime calculation. So if their vacation time or non-work time isn't included in the 40 hours of work time, it would not take away. But if that vacation time or holiday time or non-work time is part of that 40-hour calculation, then it would take away from the overtime.
Great, thank you there for the clarification. The next one here, what if we don't do carryover? It just keeps rolling and rolling.
Then we don't set up then we wouldn't set up the carryover settings. We would set it up as like this, as no limit, and they would just keep going and going. Yep.
Awesome, thank you. And then this one says, what does locked mean again?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, good question. So it's if an employee is locked out of their account. If you know, how if you've had employees come to you and say, oh, I'm locked out, then that's what we mean by locked, if they're locked out of their account. Yep.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
The next one here, these are good. Keep them coming, everyone.
Yeah.
The next one here, does the accrued to date automatically update to the rehire date when you rehire an employee?
No, it does not. You have to manually go in and adjust that date, especially on a rehire. Depending on if you're importing your employees, depending on how you import your employees, that date might populate for a new hire, but for a rehire, it does not automatically change that date.
All right, thank you. The next one, are you able to see the maximum balance? Can it be displayed?
What was that question again? Sorry.
That's okay. Are you able to see the maximum balance and can it be displayed?
And I'm assuming you're talking about in the widget?
Maybe. Yeah, if whoever's asking that question, can you clarify that real quick if you're still on? On the widget or an employee's pay stub?
I don't believe we can. I can do a little research on that and let you know. Do we have the name of that viewer that has that?
Yep, I'll take that down and we'll follow up.
Yeah, take that down as a takeaway. I'll do some research. I don't think we can, but I'll double check on it just to make sure. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
The next one here, employees say can't request PTO because in a waiting period. How do we zero this waiting period out as we don't expect them to have to wait? They accrue from day one, but they can't go in the negative.
So you would basically not have a waiting period? If your policy doesn't have a waiting period, you have to make sure that we don't have a waiting period set up in this section.
All right. And then the last one that I have for now here, unless anyone wants to throw another one in there, what is a good way to temporarily stop someone's PTO accrual?
That's a great question. Yeah. You want to take that one, Deanna?
I can take that one. So you would need to update the accrued to date for the amount of time that you do not want them to accrue to. So let's say that Rachel's going to be out on FMLA till the end of May. So we would actually go into the edit balances up here on the little ellipsis. Edit balances, and we're going to change her accrue date to 5/31/2020. Oops, put the wrong date in there. I'm 100 years ahead. And then we would just put a comment FMLA. And we could save that. And then she's not going to accrue anything until the accrual that occurs after the 5/31 date. That would keep her balance the same at 120 until after the 5/31. The next accrual after 5/31 is when she would start accruing again.
Awesome, thank you for that. And sorry for that background noise.
Yeah.
The next one here, let's see. I am newer to the payroll software and I'm not sure if I have KPay software or not. This one might be more specific to follow up here with, I log into the screen that says pay entry. Some of the screens look familiar. I will take the contact for that individual and we'll be sure to follow up with you there too. That one's more situation based here. So.
Yeah, we will.
Okay. If anyone else doesn't have any other questions here, oh, one just came through. Can you show again how to apply the pay stub to the pay stub?
How to?
I don't know that. Oh, let's see.
Say that question again.
Yeah, there's another part coming through here. Just a second.
Okay.
Okay. Can you show again how to apply the pay stub? And then it says balances. How to apply balances to the pay stub?
How to apply balances to the pay stubs?
I think so. Yeah.
That's a setup that we do behind the scenes. It's within your company setup. So if you want us to have those applied to your pay statements, you would contact us in support, and then we will get that set up for you so that then they're applied to the pay statements. So that's something we set up on our end.
It's just a feature that we just click a button and it's there.
Yeah. There's some questions and answers that we need to know. Yep.
So then for that one and anyone else who needs this just for their disposal, you can use the email address payroll@bergenkdv.com, and that goes right to the support team. So they would be able to help you there for whomever submitted that question and then anyone else who needs it. Otherwise, I don't see any other questions come in unless somebody wants to submit one real quick here. I'll give it a couple seconds.
Okay.
All right, I don't see any others sneaking up here. But what I will say too, we're gonna send a short survey right after this webinar here. And it will just ask a couple brief questions, just how do we do today? If you have any other suggestions, maybe for future ideas of webinars, feel free to submit those. And then there is a space too, where if you have any additional questions, please feel free to submit them there. And we'll make sure that the team's able to follow up too. I will pass along the contact for the couple individuals we'll follow up with those questions on. Otherwise, I think that wraps it up. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to do in closing, Beth or Deanna?
No, just, yeah, it was a pleasure to go over this with you. And certainly if you have any other questions, email our payroll support team. We'd be happy to help you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Have a great day, everyone.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.